Thank you for listening to Shulchanaruchharav.com.
A checklist of laws and customs that are followed on the day of a Yartzite, of a relative, of a parent, of one's Rebbe, as brought in the Poskim and as accustomed amongst Juri and amongst Chassidim. So the concept of a Yartzite is recorded in the Rishonim and in the Shulchanaruch regarding various halachas and customs, and is traditionally followed by the children of the deceased, and likewise by the students of the deceased if that was their Rebbe. The purpose behind these customs of a Yartzite is because on the day of a Yartzite, it's written in Sifrei Kabbalah, in the Kisvei Arizal, and Shara Kavanis, the soul goes through a judgment every single year, a renewed judgment, and to alleviate that judgment, there are various customs that the descendants, that the children keep in correspondence to. It's explained in Svarim that this applies even if the deceased was a Tzadik, and therefore students of a Tzadik who commemorate the day of his passing are likewise to keep various minhagi Yartzite customs, as even if the Tzadik does not need to alleviate his judgment, he goes through various elevations on this day, and keeping the customs benefits those who are living. So here is a summarized checklist of laws and customs kept on the day of a Yartzite for a parent, and we will then move on to the customs that are customarily kept for the Yartzite of one's Rebbe, such as Yud Shvat and Gimel Tammuz. So number one, first and foremost, one should determine the proper date of the Yartzite, in the event that there are any halachic complications or questions relevant to the date, such as if the deceased passed away by Bein Hashmashos, or in a date that doesn't occur the next year, and so on and so forth. Through consultation with a Rav, one should decide this matter. It is customary to study and complete a tractate of Talmud by the day of the Yartzite, unless the Yartzite falls on Shabbos. And one of the reasons this is done is in order to exempt the once accustomed fast that children would fast on the day of the Yartzite and that students would fast on the day of their Rebbe's passing, which is no longer accustomed today, but nonetheless, one should do a Siyum Masechta to exempt that fast, which was once accustomed. On the Shabbos before the Yartzite, one is to endeavor to receive an Aliyah to the Torah, specifically the Aliyah of Maftir, and it's also customary to hold a Kiddush after davening for the congregation. Customs that relate to the day of the Yartzite itself. On the day of the Yartzite, the children of the deceased are to practice certain laws of mourning, including to abstain from participating in a wedding or Sheva Brachas, and likewise to abstain from listening to music. It is customary to light a 24-hour candle right near sunset on the eve of the Yartzite. It's customary for the sons to immerse in a mikveh before prayer on the day of the Yartzite. The sons of the deceased say Kaddish and lead the prayer starting from Meir of the eve of the Yartzite, and also for Shachris and Mincha. Those leading the prayers light 5 candles at the time of the prayer and recite Mishnayos and Kaddish the Rabbanon after each prayer of Meir, Shachris, and Mincha of the day of the Yartzite. If the Yartzite falls on a day of Kriyas HaTorah, then it's customary for the sons to receive an Aliyah to the Torah on that day. It's customary to serve refreshments and say L'chaim after davening on the day of the Yartzite. Those children who live in the vicinity of the grave of the deceased are accustomed to visit the grave. In such a case, the custom is not to eat, but to drink beforehand, and one only breaks his eating fast after he visits the grave. As we already mentioned, it's customary to make a Siyum Masechta on the day of the Yartzite and hold a celebratory meal afterwards. Some are accustomed to read chapter 119 in Tehillim in accordance to the first name of the deceased. Others are not accustomed to do so, but certainly the recital of Tehillim is a good thing on the day of the Yartzite. One is to increase in Torah learning on this day. This is one of the main tikkunim in memory of the niftar, of the deceased, and it is customary for one to learn Mishnayos in memory of the deceased in correspondence to his name, learning 1 chapter of Mishnayos per letter of his name that is going on his first name, or his first 2 names, but not the name of his father. It is likewise customary, and again one of the main tikkunim of the Yartzite is to give charity, to give tzedakah in memory of the niftar. We will now address the customs that are similarly followed on the day of the Yartzite of one's Rebbe, of a Tzadik, as is customary on Yud, Shvat, and Gimel Tammuz, for the passing of the Rebbe Rayatz and the Rebbe. So just like by a Yartzite for a parent on the Shabbos before the Yartzite, it's customary for the Chassidim of the Rebbe to receive an Aliyah to the Torah on the Shabbos prior. Each chassid should endeavor to do so, and if there are not enough aliyahs available, then various Torah readings should take place for this purpose. But we do not add more aliyahs to the reading according to the Chabad custom of ruling. On the day of the Yartzite, a special chazan should be chosen of righteousness for the sake of leading the prayers, and as the Rebbe writes in his letter, it's proper to choose one chazan for Ma'ariv, a second for Shachris, and a third for Mincha, in order to merit a greater number of chassidim to have the privilege. 5 candles are lit by the Amma during the davening, just as is done on any day of a Yartzite. Each chassid should light a Yartzite candle 24 hours for the 24-hour period prior to the start of the Yartzite, which is immediately after sunset. If possible, the Rebbe directs that the candle should be made of beeswax. The person leading the prayer is to recite Mishnayos and Kaddish the Rabbanon after the davening, as is done on any Yartzite. The Rebbe suggested that after each prayer of Ma'ariv, Shachris, and Mincha, someone should be chosen to recite by heart the last Maimer of the Rebbe, which is by the Rebbe Rayatz, the Maimer of Basi Lagani of Tavshin Yud, and by Gimel Tammuz it's customary for Chassidim to review the Maimer of Atat Tetzaveh. One splits up the recital of the Maimer in a way that will be concluded by the last prayer after Mincha. The Rebbe also suggested that prior to Shachris one should learn a chapter of Tanya, as well as after Mincha a chapter of Tanya should be studied. One is to give charity before Shachris and before Mincha towards the institutions that are related to the Rebbe, and that these donations should be made on behalf of oneself and each of one's family members. The Rebbe instructed that after Shachris and the recitation of the Maimer, each individual should read a Pidyon Nefesh, a pan. Those who are married wear a gartel while doing so, and those who had the privilege of entering a yechidus or seeing the Rebbe are to picture him while they read the pan. The pan should then be brought to the oihel, the tzion of the Rebbe, and read there or sent there for it to be read through someone else. One is to endeavor to visit the Rebbe's oihel tzion on the day of the Yartzite, and many come in from many places of the world for this purpose. There are various customs and halachas associated with visiting a cemetery and visiting the tzion, which are beyond the scope of this checklist, but those who visit must be aware of them in order to follow all the laws and customs properly. A checklist of these customs can be found in the corresponding article. It is customary to study the chapters of Mishnayos that begin with the letters of the name of the Rebbe, just as is done by a Yartzite for a parent. The Rebbe likewise instructed in the course of the day of the Yartzite one should participate in a fabreg, in a chassidic gathering. He should relate to his friends, family, acquaintances, and all those who his influence is reachable to, of the greatness of this day, the greatness of the Rebbe, and how much love, care, and hope the Rebbe had in every single Jew, and belief in their strengths to grow and strengthen their observance in Judaism from level to level.
Thank you for listening to Shulchanaruchharav.com. Our free services of making Torah knowledge available to the public depends on donors like you. Please help us continue our work through making even a small contribution at Shulchanaruchharav.com under the Daily Halacha Dedication section or in the subscription page. Also, check out our online courses and many sefarim available for purchase that will both enhance your Torah knowledge and help support our work.